I got the dash primed. I meant to get the camera out and film some priming, and it never crossed my little mind. Let me grab some light, because you can't see doobly squat. Dash is primed. Up under the dash, I primed all up under here, most of it, not every inch of it, but most of it. I primed everything that was bare metal or rusty or being sanded. I'm going to come back later and scuff everything else when I actually paint it. But for now, I got everything that was going to rust. It was rusty. That, you know, it's prime, epoxy prime now. And of course the dash, A-pillars primed. Spot in the B-pillar I fixed is primed. My seatbelt bolt places are primed. Rest of the dash, of course. Top of the dash. This is epoxy primer. It's a PPG primer. I've been using this stuff for years. I really like it. I know there's other brands out there a lot of people use. I like this. I like it. This is what I use. A-pillar. So anyway, primer. I'm going to let this dry, and then tomorrow, after this is dry, I've also got the firewall. I've got it sanded down and metal prepped. So tomorrow, after the inside dries, I will wash this down and then prime this. I still got a small place or two to prime still. Got a little spot right here I got to fix to epoxy prime. But I'd say 95% of the epoxy priming on this cab now is finally done. Well, 90%. Firewall ain't done, but it will be. That's a major thing. Then I'll start wiping filler on my dash. I got to fix the place where I welded the speaker hole up. Fill my switch holes, a few places here and there. I'll do some work. Nothing huge. So that's it for now. Okay, the quote, what's your name? Oops, I did it again. I forgot to cut the camera on when I was priming, epoxy priming. So obviously the firewall is epoxy primed. So this firewall is a lot straighter than I remembered it being. The only real places I gotta put filler on are the few places where I shaved some holes and added a plate or two, kind of right along in here and right up down in here. Most of the firewall is straight. All I gotta do is really block it. I'm not trying to make it show a car perfect, so I'm gonna leave the factory wrinkles and stuff in it. Anything that was an actual dent, I would fix, but there's really nothing I've seen over here. Except, like I said, the ones I described over here that I got to fix from where I welded it and patched and stuff. And even my patches in my welds look pretty darn good, because there's a patch right in there. You can see a little bit of, that's more primer than anything, overspray, kind of making it look like a wave. But anyway, there will be a little bit of filler in there and over here. And then dash, I think I already showed the dash, it's primed. It's ready to start putting filler on. So my next thing I'm going to do here in just a few minutes is start putting filler on this dash. And one thing I like to do, especially on more subtle and minor dents and flaws, get light, get glare, whatever you can do, go along and kind of look, and you can see the places I have marked with the painter's tape, except minus the patch here for the center, are little dents or flaws, places where I've either welded or a couple little dents. Now the AC pods, I'm actually going to wipe a small amount of fiberglass filler. I'll show you that later. Just in the valley here, and basically I'm going to take it and dress it with my finger. I could do it with filler, but I'm just going to use fiberglass. Yeah, what the heck, 6 of one, half dozen of the other. Not heavy, just enough to basically use my finger as a shaping tool on this side and the other side. The bottom, I think it's pretty good. I'm not going to do anything to it just yet other than put a little filler in there, because it feels, well, as I'm standing here checking it, I don't know. I don't know yet about the bottom part. I don't know yet. I'll figure it out as I go. The places where I welded my switches in might need just a tiny dab of filler. I'm gonna put another finger rub of fiberglass up in this crease right here, just to kind of, you know, smooth it out some. There's not a lot of filler needed in that dash. The biggest amount by far is where I put that patch in, and even it's not huge, but it is there. It definitely needs some filler put in it. It's not perfect. I'll have to put a little bit back here where I welded up these patches and that striker plate, and a couple little holes right here I welded up, one here and one on the other side over there. So that's my next project right now, is start putting some filler on. I guess I'll leave the camera on. I'm using this Rage Ultra, the Evercoat stuff, which a lot of people are using. It's good filler. It's expensive, but it's good filler. And then a lot of times I use cheese graters to knock it down. It all depends on what kind of dent I'm feeling. You know, the small ones, the little bitty ones, size of your hand and smaller. And if you catch the filler just right, you can knock it down with 36 before it gets good and hard. Or use the cheese grater. But if you're doing a big panel like a door or a fender or a hood or something, just wipe it on there, let it harden up. Then I use a 8-inch sander to dress mine with. I don't have any filler. I don't have any spots to fill left in this truck like that, so you won't get to see that. At least not on this truck anytime soon. But the small stuff by hand, obviously, I'll be using chicken graters. God damn it. I'll be using cheese graters. Some people call them tater graters. These are cheese graters. They're actually made for filler. If I had one in the package, I'd show you. And then 36 grit. This is wore out, but that's 36 grit I use a lot. I either fold it around a blocking stick, which is the old body man way of doing it, like really old school, which I still do on smaller stuff. I've got the new school blocks. I forget who makes them. I'll grab one when I get to working filler. Dura Block. I've got several of those, from the small ones up to that great big one. It's like about 2 foot long, 1.5 feet or something. And you know, use a stick-it roll paper to go on those. So as I do more filler and get different scenarios, or not scenarios, different situations, I'll show you how I do it. This dash will probably mostly be either cheese grater and 36 to start with. And we'll try not to overly do it. I'm gonna try to wipe just the dash first and do the pillars later, so I can kind of keep them separated as far as what gets hard when. Because if you let that stuff get hard, it gets hard. It's much harder to sand. If you can catch it in the right window, it's much easier to sand. But I've been, like I say, I'm an old body man. I've done this stuff for many years, so there's a lot of tricks here that just come from experience and just kind of knowing. It's hard, and it's really hard to explain. It's just, if you do it, you learn. That's kind of the way this kind of some of this stuff goes. So anyway, let me quit yapping. I'll get the camera set up and figure out how I'm going to show this. Because once you mix that filler, you got a pot light. You can't stand there and yap and play around. You got to get it done. All right, I'll be back. All right, I'm going to mix this filler. But I'm not going to move the camera this time. It's just too much trouble to do while I'm trying to mix filler and get it white. So what I'll do is I'll put the camera in the over here where I mix my filler next time I do this. So you can kind of see how I do it. Alright, here we go. So obviously I'm going to wipe the speaker patch first. Yeah, speaker, radio, whatever. Speaker, I guess it is. And it's kind of important on your when you first put it on here to wipe a thin layer and press in, press in pretty hard that kind of gets it to stick. Well, that's the wrong word. It gets it in all the imperfections and the low spots and the dimples. If you just go on there and just slap it on there and wipe it and don't really rub it in, for lack of a better term, you're inviting pinholes and just lots of blemishes and stuff that you don't want. It's hard to explain. You know, you wipe enough filler, you see enough, you know, flaws and stuff that goes wrong. But it's hard to explain if you don't really kind of understand. It's just a good habit to do. Now that I've got it kind of wiped on, that first layer, or not the first layer, first little bit for whatever you want to call it, I'm adding the height, you know, more to it, building up the thickness basically. Body filler, I guess, is kind of an art. I don't know that it's actually true that it is, but there's 1,000 ways to do it, and 999 of them are probably okay. There's a few that are wrong, you know, but most of those wind up being they put it on way too thick. In the old days, I think, well, I shouldn't say old days, back when I started doing body work back in the, well, a long time ago, there were people putting it on a 1/4 inch thick and not worrying about it a whole lot. That's back in the very late 70s and into the 80s. You should never put it on that thick, but people were doing it. Of course, it cracks and turns loose. Now, body filler in the 70s and even in the 80s, body filler's come a long way. Technology. Now, I'm about to run out here, so let me stop yapping and wipe these few spots I got left to wipe. So we'll continue our filler discussion later. I want to get these done while I mixed a smallish amount on purpose because I didn't want to waste this stuff. I hate to waste anything, and that includes body filler. Wiping a bunch of small areas can be tricky because you wind up mixing a bunch of mixture. Me, I've been doing it for a long time. I hate to waste it. Like I said, I hate to waste this stuff. And these small spots, I'm just kind of putting some on here. I'm not being real particular about it. Well, I am. That's not true. It's hard to explain. It's just, where'd that dent go? There we go. It's hard to explain. Put it into words. Stuff's about to set up now too. So I hit this batch just right. It's about to set up on me. Or it is setting up on me. Let's see if I can catch one more spot. Can't see these are a couple of cross rod welded brackets under my dash and ground them down. That's just a little dimple. Not really enough for filler. But since I've got the filler out, I'm going to put some on there. Just makes it a little faster to get it prepped for primer. Filler primer, what do you call it? Can't say the name. You know what I'm talking about. Alright. So that's done. I've also kind of got my own method for cleaning up afterwards. Which again, I'll get the camera over here later and show you how I do it. Now the way I do this, the trick is to catch it when it's just starting to set up, but not hard all the way yet. It makes it so much easier to sand on. You have to be careful if you go in there too early, you know, it gums up the paper and the cheese grater. And again, this is one of those experience things. See, we're just about right here. This is one of those experience things where I can't tell you how to do it. You're just gonna have to do it and learn. Tell you what you don't want. You don't want your paper getting gummed up. Obviously. And you'll just have to learn. That's just the thing, experience thing. I can't teach it. I can't teach that to you with words. You're going to have to do it and experience it to understand. And I'm messing up because my light's in the way. And I forgot to block, so now I'll be alright. I'm going to work it from this side because it's a little easier to use. At least for now, yes. So I'm just basically, when this stuff gets dry, it starts to dry, the top, it forms kind of a tacky, well not kind of, it forms a tacky, it gets tacky on top, and that tacky coating will gum your paper up in a heartbeat when you start to sand. But if you can knock that down without going too far, and the paper will sand really nice, and you won't gum up paper. It might gum it up a little bit, but not the amount it would if you just let it dry all the way and then start sanding. Now, there is many people that do that. Like I say, everybody has their own methods. My method wouldn't work for everybody. There's going to be people saying I ain't doing it right, but I've only fixed a few thousand cars, so you know, it's worked for me through the years. That's all I have to say about that. Certainly everybody won't like this method. It's how I do it, it's how I've done it, it's how I like it to do it, and it's how I'm going to keep on doing it. So, it works for me. If you're only here trying to learn to do body work, this is probably not the video for you, but you can see how I do it and decide if you want to try it or not. I'm not going to offend me. If you don't like it, or if you do like it, great. If you don't, okay. It's just a method that works for me, like I said. Also, this is not collision work. This is not. I'm not sitting here on the clock. Got to fix this car in 2 days, or the customer is going to get pissed, and yada yada yada. Paint shops got to have cars in it tomorrow, and there's 1,000 things when you're doing it for a living. It's variables. And I'm not the fastest body man around, that's for damn sure. I never was and never will be. But I try to take my time and do things right. Or as right as I can do them anyway. So I'm just shaping this kind of the best I can to get it close. And again, this is just an experience feel type of thing. You have to learn to do this for yourself. Nobody can really, they can tell you the techniques to use, but to actually do it, you got to do it yourself. And then these, I'm just going to knock these down because they're really high. Get most of the excess off. If you're a sculptor, or if you can shape wood, or if you can shape anything by hand, you can do body work. Just might be a little bit bigger scale. Let me rephrase that. You can use plastic filler and do body work. Using lead is a whole different ball game. It's still a filler. Still got to be shaped, but it's a whole different skill set that I don't have. I leaded one time just to see if I could do it, and I did do it. Plastic filler is just so much easier and faster. It still gets a bad rap in certain circles, but if you use it correctly, ain't nothing wrong with it. So I'm of y'all also might be sitting there wondering why I put the filler on top of the primer. Modern fillers, even back into the 80s and 90s, could be put on top of epoxy primer. It's cured, but not overly dry. In other words, the PPG primer that I use has got a 3-day window where you can apply anything to it, primer, filler, whatever, without having to sand it. One of the bad things about plastic filler, especially years ago, and it will still to this day, it absorbs moisture. So if you put it on a panel, say I ground this, this dash was ground down to bare metal, which is how we all started doing plastic filler years ago. Over time, that filler can absorb moisture, especially if you drilled holes through it and then use the old snatch bar method. And then your panel that your filler's on will start to rust from the inside, and eventually it'll pop off. The filler will pop, and there's millions of, well, not millions, there's lots of cars through history that's happened to. Now I'm gonna stop yapping a minute. I'm gonna take my block and this filler is still not good and hard, but it's just the perfect time to be sanding on it. And it sands beautiful when it's in this state right here. I've got a longer block I should probably be using, but I'm sitting here already in here. Now I'm just going to cross my fingers. I can do it with this one. There is what you do have to kind of deal with a sandpaper or with a filler kind of gumming up its paper. But you can generally, I tap on it with a paint stick, just a panel or something, and it'll pop, generally it'll pop right loose. Of course, curved, like I got a curved area right here I've got to be real careful with in this block, not to gouge it out. I'll get a curved block for this later on. For that, I mean. Right now I'm just trying to work the big flat spots. But anyway, this primer, this is epoxy primer. You can put filler on top of epoxy primer and it'll stick just fine. In fact, it probably sticks better to that than it does bare metal. Now the newer primers, like that Rage Ultra I'm using, they say you could even put that over the top of paint. Factory finish, as long as they're well sanded. I've never done it, but they wouldn't tell you could do it if it wouldn't work, because it would be causing catastrophe in the body repair industry if they said something like that would work and it actually wouldn't. So I'm sure it probably does work. It definitely works on top of this primer, epoxy primer. I've done this for years, and it works great. And it keeps it protects the panel. Number one, the primer's under here protecting the panel. And then the filler on top of that sticks. It's a chemical adhesion, not just mechanical. And it sticks really well. It just works really well. So I don't put filler on bare metal anymore, body filler. I always try to prime first. Been doing it that way for many, many years. I'm just sanding away here until I get it down where I kind of like it. And again, some of this is feel. Some of it is I can see it. I can see dents in the filler. I can see low spots. I can see high spots. That all comes again from experience and knowing what you're doing. faster methods. You can get a DA out, you can get a machine out, you can do lots of mechanical methods. I just like doing it this way. It's slow and methodical, it's just kind of my nature. We're getting to the top of the patch I made right here. See that bare spot starting to poke through. So I'm trying not to work that down even more. See if I can get it feathered in out here on the edges into my panel. And it looks like we're starting to feather in pretty good. So in a minute here, I'm going to stop with this 40 grit. And I'll switch to 80 grit. And get a round paper, round block. So that's roughed in. Feels pretty good. Now we hit these other little dents right quick. I think I mentioned this is 40 grit or 36 grit. 30. It was either 40. This is 36 on the block that I haven't used. This sticky paper I think is either 36 or 40. And it's like it's one of the little Dura Blocks. So I'm just knocking that down. I missed part of this over here with the filler. I'll show you in a minute how it looks. You can't see it from where you are. I'll show you in a second how to tell, or an easy way to tell. Knock these curves down a little bit. Got to be careful here because if the curve, if I get too greedy with this flat block, I'll gouge it. So I got to be careful. Now, I've done this enough. I kind of know how to do it without gouging it, but and again, this is just one of those experiences. It takes practice kind of things. Anybody first starting out, I wouldn't tell them to do this. I would tell them not to do it this way. Because this, you gouge it in a heartbeat, for sure, up in this curve. If you didn't completely understand what you were doing. Somebody out there probably yelling at me, don't ever do it. That's fine. You know, what works for every person is different. Yeah, I'm just showing you what works for me. I'm not telling you how to do it. You do it the way it works for you. Maybe you'll see the way I do it and say, hey, that might work for me. Let me give it a try. That's all I'm here for. was taught to wipe filler in big areas. I taught myself to do small body work type stuff when I was 17. As far as collision repair, I was taught to wipe filler by a guy that had been doing collision work at that point about 20 years. And the things he taught me then are still principles that I use to this day. The fillers have changed and primers have changed and yada yada yada. But the techniques and the skills are still pretty much the same. If you don't believe that, then fine, I'm not going to argue with you, because maybe you're right. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, that's my take on it. I'm sure you're not trying to preach to anybody. And if I am, I apologize. It's not my intent. There's a lot of guys on YouTube showing how they do filler. A lot of them I won't agree with. But that's just because I do it this way. They do it their way. Okay. We're pretty much ready to hit it with some 80 grit and see what we get. What we got. I believe I see a low spot right here still. It may block down, I don't know yet. Alright, let me get out of here and move around a little bit. So here's a top view. I mentioned that I can see low spots and high spots. That's an obvious high spot, or it's just right. So it's either high or it's about the proper height. So that went to metal. A low spot is a dark spot right here. See a little dark spot right there? That's a low spot. So you can see here where the sandpaper has hit all this filler and it missed right there. That's a low spot. Now that may come out when I block it, or it may be truly low. I won't know till I block on it with some more 80 grit. This is 46 grit blocking, like I just said. But it's roughed in. The shape feels really nice. That spot definitely feels low. So more than likely that will not block out. But I'll find out. I got to block this curve here, which I haven't. I've only just roughly blocked at it. I will do a much better job of it here in just a moment. I also mentioned I can see places where it didn't feather. See how, like this dent here, see how the sand the feathering is all out into the edge of the metal, and even on this one and this one, whoops, on that one. See right here, this little dark ridge, that line, that's a low spot. That's where I didn't get, I put filler up here when I should have put it down here. So I missed this area with the filler. So that's a clear indication of a low spot. So I got down to it and I just stopped because I got to put more filler in. You could try to primer fill that, but why do that? That's just wasteful. Just put some more filler in it. So let me get my talking about my filler setup, Bondo setup. It's a piece of 1/4 inch plexiglass. I've had this piece of stuff for, I guess, going on almost 40 years. My dad got this for me from Delta Airlines. Like I said, I think I said before, he worked at Delta and could get all kind of stuff. I've had this piece of 1/4 inch plexiglass, like sand, plexiglass, whatever, has wiped nearly every car I ever fixed. Thousands, hundreds, thousands of cars. And all you do is I use a putty knife to mix my filler with, which is, you know, thick putty knife. Hang on a second, because what I do, like when I was doing this for a living every day, you wiping filler all day long. Take a bucket, fill it full of lacquer thinner, and you keep your spreaders. Can't see spreaders and your knife or whatever in the lacquer thinner, and that stops the filler from completely hardening. So hang on, I'm fixing to clean one off here. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this. The filler is on there, but it's not hardened. So all you have to do, you can't see this, you just take a rag and wipe it off, and it comes right off. Easy as pie. you get a little bit of ridge on top, like that ridge right there that hardened up, and just take a scraper, a razor knife, which I've got here somewhere, and just knock that right down. This plated knife has wiped many hundreds, if not thousands, of gallons of body filler. And then the spreaders, same trick. You put them in there, and then most of the time I get most of the filler off. So I already had this one pretty clean before I put it in there. So it's just a matter of taking a rag, and I'm trying to do this where you can see it. Wipe it down. If there was a little bit of filler remaining, it would pop right off, and you're ready to go again. So that keeps you from having to stand there and fill them and clean them after they get dry, which is a pain in the butt. I don't recommend that to nobody. Get you a bucket, some kind of container, put some lacquer thinner in it, dump your spreaders in it, and your plating knife or whatever, and you'll thank me for that advice later. So what I do, I put my filler on the pad or the plexiglass, however much it is, add my hardener to it, and then I take the plating knife and work it in. See this bare spot in the middle, that's where I usually work at, and then it spreads around. And over time, when I finish wiping, you heard me do it a while ago, so you know what I was doing. I was scraping the excess filler off, and then when you do that, the way I do it, I've done it forever. Take a trash can with trash can liners, and you rub it off. And there's none on here now to show you, but you can tell. And then over time, this layer will start to build up. So all you do is take a grinder. I take a 3-inch grinder on my die grinder. You can see the circle marks from the grinder. Just lightly go over it. Not grind the crap out of it, just enough to knock that filler off, and you're ready to go. Like I said, this panel is 40 years old. It's wiped thousands of cars, and it's still 1/4 of an inch thick. So I haven't, you can take care of this thing. For wiping filler, don't put it on cardboard. You see guys that do that, don't do that. Don't put it on cardboard. Cardboard's absorbs, there's resins and stuff in here, in this filler. Cardboard will absorb that stuff. I'm just telling you, please don't do it. This will be my second rant ever on my channel. Don't mix filler on cardboard. Don't do it. It's just not good. Find anything. Find metal, find plastic, find something. Just don't use cardboard. It's not good. Don't do it. Alright, end of rant number 2. If you missed my first rant, it was about using coat hangers as welding rods. Oh, that's just... Anyhow, so that's my filler technique. Let me get the camera up. Well, actually, we got to do some more blocking first. So let me set up for that. So hold on. All right, to block up in this curved area, I've got another Dura block. It's a round. Can you see that? It's a round block. Come on, camera. Come on, light. So you just wrap your stick-it paper, or paper. I use a stick-it kind. You just wrap it around the block. And my curve obviously is here going into it, so I'm going to block into it with the curve. Now this Dura block will stay straight. It doesn't form over the curve. A lot of guys feel like they have to get curved blocks that match the surface. I mean, that's fine. I can do it without it. I use the block and then rotate the block around, let it kind of fall to the contour. And again, it's one of those things you can't really be taught to do it. You just got to see somebody doing it and say, hey, I want to try that. I can do that too. It's just a technique. It takes practice. The biggest thing at this point now is I'm using my hand to feel with. And yes, you can feel stuff with your hands. You think you can't do it, but you can. It's a learned thing. You got to kind of do it to learn to do it, but you can do it. Because everybody man does do it. You can do it. And also use your eyes. You can see how things are blocking. If you're blocking on something, you get a big bubble in the middle like this silver spot, you got a high spot. If you've got a big panel here and you're working fine, that pops up, you got a high spot. Or I showed you a low spot before, everything looks good, that one dark hole in the middle, that's a low spot. So use your eyes too. I'm trying to block into this area by keeping my block, in plane with what I'm blocking. And I'm not trying to gouge into it. That's why I'm using two hands to control the block better. And again, that's just a skill and a practice thing. You have to do it, practice it to be able to do it. I don't know, tell a beginner to do that, but then again, you're not going to be able to learn if you don't do it. Practice it. But prepare for some frustration if you're new to this. And learning how to do it. Just take your time, don't get in a hurry. I mentioned slow and methodical. That's me. So, I really can't say a lot more about that than that. Now, see, I'm starting to pair that up to metal, so, and it feels pretty good. The only problem I may wind up having, I may have a butthole. We used to call them a butthole. Your fillers come along and you take a big dive and come back up. We call them buttholes. I may wind up having a butthole right here where that filler blends in. And I won't know until I block on it somewhere. That right there feels pretty darn good. So I'm gonna switch blocks now to my flat block. And I mentioned Dura Blocks. I got the bigger block that everybody's used to. This block is too big to be sanding right here. It would sand this much of it, and I could do it, and I'll probably will switch to this at some point. But for this small, just starting out what I was doing, I can get this block in here better. It's just a choice. This one would certainly do it. And at some point I will switch to this. Just haven't switched to it yet. I've also got this type. It's the same length as this one. It's just, the thicker one with the handholds. I could have used it instead of this one. I just like this little small one for small stuff like this. It's just a preference thing. None of it's really right or wrong. Well, anyway, block in here. See what you get. When you block with the 80 grit, you start to let's see what you've actually got. The scratches in the 36 are so rough, it's hard. I mean, you know that you got it straight-ish, but those 36 grit scratches are also coarse. It does kind of, it's hard to tell if you've actually got it really, really, really straight. 80 grit, you're starting to get down smooth enough where you can really start to feel it nice if it's flat. Yeah, that's feeling pretty good. As I said, use your eyes. Watch your feather edges out here. If it's feather edging real nice, then more than likely you're pretty straight. You got a big, like here, like a big dark line or something, or a big high spot, then you got high spots and low spots you got to work out. That didn't feel good, by the way. You got to deal with it. Out here on the edge of this filler line, where I'm saying there's a butthole. There might be a butthole out here. And I apologize for calling it butthole. It's just what I'll call it that for 40 years. The guy that taught me filler work called them buttholes, so I'll call them buttholes. And of course, when you block, you want to go across, you want to zigzag, and you don't stay in one pattern. You got to crisscross, and there's all kinds of people on YouTube explaining block sanding a lot better than I'm doing right now. I'm just giving you a real crash course. You'd have to get on a big panel like a door or a fender or a hood or something to really show it well. Small spots, the techniques are the same, but on a small spot, versus a big spot. There's a lot of differences, obviously. So I'm just continuing the block here. I am kind of crisscrossing and zigzagging. The reason I'm using two hands here, it's not because I'm tired and my arms hurt. That's got nothing to do with it. I can control the block and keep it very, very flat. And then like going down back into this V right here, which kind of rolls down. But you can't block with a flat block, but you can block with the edge. And on these Dura Blocks, the sandpaper hangs over the edge a little bit. Come on, see that right there? Come on. Use that to your advantage. You can use that edge up in some tight spots. So I'm taking that edge and rolling my block up and using two hands so I can control it and blocking down into that edge right there. And a lot of guys will tell you don't do that, and that's fine. But it works for me. I can do it. So if I can do it, I'm going to do it. And I can do it and it works. I think I have to get in the cab to see the front side. But this, from back here, is looking really good. And feeling good too. I could have just done a line from a movie and I didn't do it. So give me some credit for that one. Kudos if you can guess what movie it was. Kudos to you if you can guess what movie it was. You probably can't. But I'm going to re-hit this up here again, real lightly. The goal is to not sand the epoxy primer off, but if you do around the edges, I don't cry over that. You're going to put the 2K primer on top of it. That stuff sticks incredibly well. Some people actually go to the trouble of repriming with epoxy primer. I don't do that. I never have. I never had any problem. I just don't do that. If it was a big old area and I knocked it down, yeah, I might think about it. Like this spot here, I'm not going to worry about it. Primer, 2K primer will be just fine for that. I think we're pretty good there. Let me get inside the cab. Just to hit the front side so I can see it. You see now I'm using two hands again to hold the block straight. I should switch to the long block here, and when I start blocking primer I will, but since I've already got this and I know how to do this, I'm just going to continue using this flat block or shorter block. Now this high spot right here actually feels high. There's a shiny spot. I'll try and show it in a minute. It actually feels a tick high, but it also might block out. But no, that's a tick high. All right, I need to address that. So I will get out and address that and show you how I'm going to do that. The rest of this feels pretty good. Let me get up in this corner. You got to work this on down. Make sure it feather edges in. Alright, that feels pretty good. This all feels pretty good over here. Okay. This front may wind up being a little wavy, but I think the primer surfacer will be able to handle that just fine. Definitely not worth it's not worth re-wiping. That's all easy to say. I'm sure I got down here so that I can see. Alright, let me knock these spots while I'm here. See little dents like this, you just knock them down, feather them off into that primer. And there's that one. And this one up here. Lots of them I gotta be white, so I don't need to do that. I got to hit that one over there that I can't get from here. Let me show you how I'm going to fix this right here. First off, this spot over here wound up being low. See that line again? The dark spot? And I can feel it too. It's low. This whole little area right here, that's actually low. So I got to refill this whole little spot right here. So here's the high edge I'm talking about. When you want your filler to feather edge like this, just a nice gradual taper off into your primer or filler, whatever metal. That's feather edging. When you get the high spot like this, that real shiny spot, that's a high spot. It's a primer edge. The filler edge here is low. This is high. Now this is different. This feathered. See how it gradually tapers out? It's feathered in. You just got a little touch of a high spot. When I block, the primer filler will come in here and fill this little tiny little ridge, which is not even really a ridge, and you'll never know that's there. This has got a high enough spot, so basically it's coming along, it's flat, it's pooched up. Whoa, it's coming along flat, little pooch up and then back in again. That's what this right here is. So you could wipe filler on top and make your panel basically have a gradual hump in it, but that's not the way to do it, because then your panel's not going to be flat. You got to get, I'm trying to see what I'm doing with the camera in my hand. You got to get this area down. So there's a couple ways you can do it. My two body hammers that I use the most are this one that has the back straight edge on it. You could go in here and tap right along that high spot like that, or you can use a pick hammer, which is what this is. This is very similar, or it is the same idea as the bullseye picks you've seen the sheet metal guys use, the coach guys. That they have a pick that goes in there, and one side's got a dolly and one side's got a pick, and it picks together and taps up low spots, or it taps down highs. It's the exact same process, just you got a hammer that does that. So most of the times I use the pick hammer method because I can just go in here and tap it down. The trick on this one is that I have to put a dolly behind it. As I'm trying to show you how I'm going to do it, I'm not going to put a dolly back it. I'm going to see if I can do it by hand without a dolly. So let's just try it right quick and see what happens. I've got to make sure I can show what I'm doing here. So I got to watch this, not the camera. So see, the panel's bouncing, so I'm not moving it a whole lot, but it don't take much. Got to hit it just a little bit more. those hits sounded a little more solid. We've actually worked it down a little bit. I am not hauling off and hitting this thing. I'm just tapping on it. Again, that's just an experience thing. That feels pretty good. Now let me take my block and see if maybe I might have fixed it just by blocking it. But my guess is I've now got this a tick low. You see that edge feathering better already right there? We're still, it's better over here on the edge. Over here in the middle, it's still a little bit, it's walking on me a little bit. So I'm gonna hit it back over here, Tad. And you're probably sitting there wondering, was that panel bent that far out before? And the answer is, I don't know. The combination of welding that new patch in, dollying on it, and the heat has made this panel move for sure. There's no doubt. Originally, this may have been straight as an arrow out here. Now it's got a little bit of movement. That's just all there is to it. I'm not going to sit here and debate why it's doing this. I'm fixing a dent. I'm the body man at this point. I got to fix this dent. Okay, that's just barely low, which is what I want. And I'm talking, you know, I don't know about distance measurement wise, but it's just barely low. So another little bit of wiping the filler. And that's where a lot of body work, that's where your finesse, a lot of body work finesse comes in. A lot of people get filler straight in the middle when it's just filler because you can block with filler. Where they have trouble, where you got to learn, where you got to practice, is out on the edges, where things blend in and blend out and feather and all that. I know you've all seen the paint job on the car that has, you know, looks good on the side, and you see this big massive butthole, for lack of a better term. That's a big butthole in their filler work that they did on there. They didn't block it out well. They didn't get the filler in there right. That's why we call them buttholes. It looks like a giant butthole in the side of a car. Like somebody took a butt and backed into it. That's it. Anyway, that just needs a little bit of filler wipe, and I think we'll wipe it on out into here a little bit to feather it on down some more, and I think we'll be in really good shape. So here's the panel from this side. Obviously, it feels really nice. It feathers in really nice. This is the spot I was worried about earlier being a butthole. But it's very, very close. And see, there's a small rise here. You know, it does one of these up into the speaker, the speaker vent. So when I block this with primer, it'll just fill right in. So that's going to be no problem. This is the one I missed earlier. Like I said, I got to fill that one because of that. And then, like I said, I got to refill this one because this one got low on me. I wound up not filling it high enough, not filling it enough, and it got low. It was always low. That one's blocked. So now here's a scratch or a pinhole right there. Glazing putty, polyester, the good stuff, the polyester type glazing putty, not the red stuff that we used to use 30 years ago. That stuff shrinks. A little bit of glazing putty will fix that, or I'll hit it with a dab of filler. So I got a few pinholes here, not bad, just a few small ones. See right there. A little bit of putty or even primer will fill those right up. So anyway, I'm going to re-wipe this right quick. So let me get the camera reset up. I guess this time I'll put the camera over on the filter station, let you see that. I won't show wiping this. You've already seen me wipe filter once. Once you've seen somebody wipe filter, you've seen them wipe filter. Unless we're doing a big door or something, which this is not. I'm going to get the camera set up over there and I'll be back. We're going to call it here, so thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. Do the subscribe thing, the notification thing, do all the things, you know what to do. All the YouTube stuff, and I will catch you in the next one. Catch you on the flip side. Y'all come back now, you hear?